it's so hard because there's stuff that like, it's the same with any kind of career path or anything you do in life that like you're passionate about or whatever it is. But it's more difficult like the further you get removed from like common knowledge, basically. Like, this is actually a very interesting point I want to bring up real quick, and that is the conversation of memes in general. And while we're talking about this, I'm gonna just kind of keep repairing. And comedy in general, really. I mean, I'm not like a comedic master, but I do enjoy memes quite a bit. And I think the interesting component about memes is just this idea of we all share relative language, and the different abstractions of that in terms of these represented ideas or images and things of that nature. The more kind of abstract from the point they become, let me think. Is this opposite? I think I need to turn this. No, that was right. Anyway, what am I trying to say? Basically, we're creating different in-groups. So there's, you know, people that find this relatable and such like that. They will find it more interesting, yada, yada, yada. Which is something that I find incredibly compelling because, like, that's kind of how language is treated. But memes is more of a universal thing, as long as you understand the general concept. There's like a trucker meme page on Instagram that I'll send my buddy some memes sometimes, because it's like, there's this one, it's like, the only people out on the road at 2 a.m. are lonely, in love, or truckers. And it's like, it's so goofy, but it's also just kind of funny. Anyway, enough of that. So people can find that more interesting though, because it relates on a deeper level to something that you also have shared experience with. So for instance, if you've ever been on the road at 2 a.m., you know, you've either been in love, lonely, or, you know, are a trucker or something like that. So the idea is it's tailoring to an audience that will understand it and find it relatable, and that gives it value in that sense. Now, for stuff like what I'm doing now, what I do primarily, it's so difficult to try and like articulate the things that I find frustrating about certain cameras, the things I really appreciate about certain cameras, design choices and such of that nature, because like to me it just makes sense. This is the language that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. This is what I see. Like, this is second nature to me almost. Not quite. Like, I'm definitely not that good, but like I know my ins and outs through these things, and so that's kind of how I speak. Someone else has no clue what I'm talking about, so when I'm like explaining why I don't like, for instance, the big thing is like, I don't like Nikon cameras. I hate Nikons. I don't like them. Well, you know, they're good cameras. It's like, yeah, no, they are good cameras, but the ones I've seen are not. Like, the Nikons that I usually get sent or am dealing with or have bought are not in great condition, and so I don't like them. Like, I don't like dealing with them. And it's fair on my part. My perception of them is different than the common perception, which is, I think, fair and understandable. But also, I'm jaded in that sense. So when I'm talking about like things that frustrate me about cameras, I have issues with things that people just don't have any concept of, which is totally fine, because there are other things in this world, like cars, for instance. I don't really know much about cars. So people will be like, oh, the car you drive is a bad car for whatever justifiable reasons that might be. And like I said, they're justifiable in those reasons. But to me, I'm like, well, the engine turns over and I go places in it, so it's a good car. And I mean, we're both correct in our own ways, but it's just interesting to think about things at like a macro level are different to everybody. So for instance, I posted this thing on my story and I was just like, man, what the hell, like, this is the worst. And someone was like, confused by that and was like, I don't know, it just, I feel like I need to explain it, because in the moment I was like really frustrated and irritated, and to them I just sound like a, I don't even know. So all that to be said, camera, good. The issue that I'm seeing with this is it's not quite sitting well. The whole reason I started this video was to record the process of putting that washer in for the self-timer, because basically what it is, it's a washer that sits like this. And on the body of the camera, actually I know that I have a self-timer here somewhere, because I took it off of the Spotmatic. I think I might have put it in a little box or something. On the body of the camera itself is the timing mechanism, as opposed to the ME Super and newer cameras, where the self-timer, if it's an actual physical timer, sits on the front plate. This one sits in the camera well. So it would sit right in here. I took this one out, but it sits there like that, and then you have notch right there, which connects to this front. So this washer goes in here, it's a cross point, so it sits, like if this is going horizontal, then the other point goes vertical, and that has to line up with the self-timer. The best way I've found to do it is to manually charge the timer with pliers or something like that, and then reconnect it from there, and then screw it on as quick as you can. Make sure that you can set the self-timer all the way, and then also make sure that it runs. That's basically it. Sometimes, like, when was this? I think somebody sent in, oh yes, I remember. It was a KX. A customer sent in his KX, and the KX is basically a K1000 mixed with an MX, where it has the aperture preview window and also has a self-timer on it. However, the self-timer wasn't working, and that's because the washer just fell out of place. So I took the front plate off and replaced and all that stuff. But I don't think I made a video for that necessarily. I might have, but anyway, that is how you reset that. And I'm just gonna finish putting this back together. So enjoy.